Thank you all so much for joining. We've still got folks who are coming on in to our room. Appreciate everybody being here. Wonderful to see all faces. I hope everyone isn't so tired of Zoom that this is a burden. Right? I went to an in-person conference Tuesday through today, and there were so many jokes about people having legs. Did you know we've got legs, you guys? I don't stop at the waist. Love, love, love to see my Minnesota people here. Mwah. Eli. All right, give a couple more minutes. I know technology is hard. Hey, Summer.
Wow. So good to see so many familiar names and so many new ones.
Yeah. All right, I feel like the admits are slowing down, maybe at the top of the next minute or so, or I mean, you know, when we get going, we'll get going. As folks get settled, I just want to remind everyone that you're welcome to offer thoughts in the chat. It is being moderated. Though as a preview or spoiler, we probably will not be addressing most chat issues right away. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that is. Yay, hi, Amy.
Hey, Amy.
All right. All right, Sarah, you want to take it away?
All right, we'll get started. Thank you, Angela. So I want to start by thanking the NHFA Board for pursuing this worthy endeavor and opening up this space to address an issue that it is asking us all to step back and lean in at once. And I really want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah Cruz. I became actively involved with the organization when I attended the first NHFA conference held in Boulder, Colorado in 2010. I served on the board for 6 years from 2013 through 2019, the last 2 of those in the position of president of the board, a position now held by Angela Woosley. The NHFA was formed in 2009 by a group of people who had been involved in family-directed and community-centered after-death care in their own communities for several years, and came together to share the knowledge they had gained in a spirit of generosity and caring. Many of those individuals guided me on my path into this work, and I know that I wouldn't be where I am without the NHFA. I'm a home funeral educator and advocate in my community, the founding director of a natural burial ground here in Kansas called Heartland Prairie Cemetery, and the creator and host of the NHFA podcast, A Path Home. I believe that this organization provides a vital contribution to the health of our society and our relationship to death. Because of my deep belief in the importance of the NHFA, I remain an active member, providing a connective thread from the early days to the present moment, like many of you who are on this call tonight. And I'm really grateful to the board for asking me to facilitate this meeting. As you are all aware, the mission of the NHFA is to educate and empower families and communities to care for their own dead. Toward this goal, we aim to provide the most accurate and accessible information on all things related to home funerals, including both the legalities and practicalities of after-death care. The way we present this information has continually been improved upon by the passionate people called to the leadership of this growing and evolving organization. This moment in time is requiring us to take a deeper look at the implicit biases and subtle or explicit ways our communications, public profile, and educational materials include or exclude groups of people. Personally, I was taken aback when I read the words used to describe how our educational materials have excluded people. I recognize that I have my own bias blinders on and have much to learn as I grapple with the isms inherent in the culture and how they may unconsciously inform the way the NHFA communicates our message. Over the past several days, I did my own review of the educational materials and have yet to find the words used in ways that perpetuate racist, ableist, classic, and transphobic ideas, classist and transphobic ideas of death care. When I read the language that comes from people who are devoted to sharing this essential work, I hear their voices, see their efforts and commitment. Excluding people is the opposite of the goal I know we all share. I am committed to increasing my own awareness of harmful language in which I have participated. It is worth noting that no organization or grassroots movement begins fully formed with all the diversity, inclusion, and equity already completely intact. There is always something new to learn and ways to improve. I am pleased that the current board has taken on the challenge to ensure that the NHFA's message and mission is accessible to everyone. I'd like to invite each of us to bring into this space tonight the qualities we might bring to the bedside of a dying person: an open heart, compassion, a willingness to face what makes us uncomfortable, and the humble recognition of what it is to be human with all of our complexities, imperfections, and goodness. So thanks. And I'll pass that on to whoever is bringing us into a grounding moment, or shall we move on to our journey here?
Alice has that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alice Tui, and I have been part of the board since 2019. And I wanted to just bring us sort of in the virtual room together. So, and give us an opportunity to sort of arrive and pause here. So if everybody can just take a moment to feel your body in your chair, feel where you are in space right now. You can close your eyes if you like or not, just to feel the breath in the body or movement in the body right now. How everything is feeling in this particular moment. I invite you to take a couple breaths or just relax anything that feels tense right now, and just invite that sense of ease, as much of a sense of ease as we can into this moment in our bodies. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Take a moment to see who you're seeing on the screen in front of you. moment to feel your body again. And with that, we can move on to the next part.
We're going to hear now from the individual board members as to what led them to this place, their journey to the pause.
Hi all. I'm gonna go first. First of all, it's really nice to see everybody coming out tonight. I see a lot of familiar faces, a lot of people I've known for years, and a ton of people I've never met or seen your names. So fantastic to see such a great mix of our members and our folks. So thank you so much for joining us here. For you, it's night. It's 2 p.m. for me, so still kind of early. Yeah, we're just gonna, a few of us volunteered to just talk a little bit about how we joined the NHFA and our journey to this point. So for me, oh, and I'm so sorry, my name is Leilani Maxera, and I am a board member since October of 2020. And I've been a member of the NHFA. I found the NHFA actually in 2013. So it's been a little while. And I found the NHFA when I first heard about home funerals. I had no idea they existed. And someone mentioned it to me, or I read it somewhere, and I was like, what is that? I was so excited. And I immediately read everything I possibly could about home funerals, got involved, took a home funeral training, just got super obsessed with them. And what's interesting about me is I've never even been to a home funeral still, all this time, 8 years, yeah, involved in this movement. I've never even been to a home funeral, but I'm obsessed with them. I wrote my master's thesis on home funerals, and actually with the help of a bunch of people on this call. So thank you for everybody who helped me with that. And also just, and I just, anybody who I talk to who's never heard of a home funeral, I get so excited. I'm just like, my eyes light up. I'm like, let me tell you all about it, because I love this work so much. And for me, what I wanted to touch on briefly is, other board members are going to talk a lot more about some of the points we made in the open letter we sent to the community. But something I really wanted to take a moment to focus on and to touch on is something, if we added everything, we thought that letter would have been like 5 to 10 pages, 20 pages, right? So we had to condense it. But something, for me with this pause is just, why are we acting like we're not living in the middle of a global pandemic? For a year and a half, we have been trying to act like life is normal. For our board members, like every month it was like, oh, we got to get the webinar out. We got to get the newsletter out. We're struggling like the day before to find content. We had a webinar one month where just one board member did everything because we all were so busy and stressed out, and just, one person had to do everything, and we're just struggling. We got to do this. We got to do this. And it's like, why, right? Why are we acting like life is normal and we just are doing what we've done because we do it already, right? Like we have the time, like nothing's changed. And I think that we're super wedded in America and in other countries to grind culture. Like we have to keep producing. And so for us, taking this pause, to me, it's like being a member of the NHFA is free, right? It's free. We love you. We're going to do everything we can to get this, to support this movement, but we don't owe people a million things every month. You don't pay for it. It's free. And we're all volunteers. All the board members are volunteers. All of y'all helping us out are volunteers. We're doing what we can while hundreds of thousands of people are dying in a global pandemic to keep our lives going. So for us, and I'm almost done. I saw time check. I'm almost done. We love this work and we want to keep it going, but to keep it going, it has to be sustainable, right? it has to be sustainable. And the way we've been struggling is not sustainable. We have members of the board who moved across the country in the last year and a half. We've had people got COVID, their loved ones got COVID. We've had people with other medical emergencies, and the ableism of us pretending things are normal and these things aren't happening. Like literally right now, I have a ice pack in my bra because I came straight from the hospital because I had a biopsy and I didn't want to miss this because I'm just like, this is super important. I'm willing to do that tonight, but you know, there's many other times where, you know, that's a stupid idea. That's a real stupid idea because our health comes first, our lives comes first, our family, our community, our friends. And, you know, not saying we give it all up for the NHFA. I don't mean to sound like a martyr, like all the people talking tonight are like, the NHFA is our life, it's all we do. But, you know, it's something we volunteer to do. It shouldn't, you know, be a chore and a hard thing. But when we're living through these hard, awful capitalist times, it became such for some of us. And we need to pause for our health and our mental health on top of all of the other things other people are going to talk about. So thank you for that. And Tanya, I think it's your turn, dear.
I'm actually going to go next. All right. So I still have a lot to learn. You know, my time in the NHFA and also with anti-racist work. I'm new and learning. And so I'm also doing my own personal work of recognizing white supremacy where it is in me and in my life. And one of the moments that woke me up was receiving the document on white supremacy culture from the Equity and Access Committee of the NHFA, and understanding that my activity within the organization at that time was affected by a need for speed, for progress, urgency, and perfectionism, and more. I didn't know how to shift this in myself, let alone as part of an organization. Then seeing Dr. Cami Fletcher's webinar last year was another awakening for me in understanding how my unexamined idea of home funeral education usually only included people that looked like me. And these blind spots were also present in my work with the NHFA. I'm learning that shifting culture takes time and dedication. And for me, it really needs to be a priority as I easily slip back into what is comfortable for me. So I'm so grateful that we're taking this pause to take the time to really look at what we're offering and to who we're offering it.
Thank you, Alice. Part of what brought me here was attending the conference and not thinking and not feeling like much of the conference spoke to many of the communities in which I walk in, and feeling like many communities would be harmed by the language that was used at the conference. So when I was approached to join the space, it was in the vein and in the vein of making change and being able to call in conversation about all of this. What brought me here to this pause is exhaustion and being tired of explaining stuff. Sorry, I'm a sailor. Explaining stuff and explaining how and why white supremacy culture is harmful, and doing all of that stuff while still producing for the NHFA was harmful to all of us. And so I'm here because this is the only way I could be here, is if we could pause and be kind to ourselves, the work that we are trying to do, and careful to include all of the people who love the NHFA in this process. I have so much more to say, but we have time limit. So Tanya, is that mail truck gone? No. You want us to move forward? Liz, are you cool?
I can say a few things. I actually reworked my whole thing and decided not to do it, but I will. I'll just speak to the reasons that I'm here. The reasons that I'm here with the NHFA, partly because, you know, going to the conference in 2019, I saw just the love and the deep spirituality in the home funeral movement. And that really seemed to me like fertile ground for the good work that needs to happen within death care. I'm a funeral director and embalmer, and you know, I see that, you know, it's still a very segregated industry. It's still very white male led, and it's got a lot of room for growth and inclusion, and including family-led funerals, home funerals. So I felt that this that the NHFA was a good meshing for me with all of these important things, including all of these groups that have been marginalized. And I have found that the people that are, you know, that are here are willing to ask the hard questions and have helped me grow so much. And I have learned so much about a lot of my isms, classism, racism, and again, kind of mirroring what Leilani said, we're tackling a lot of really difficult topics, and we're also doing that while we've got so much other pressure from the pandemic. And I just feel like it's probably the most radical anti-capitalist thing we can do, to just, instead of grind, produce, to just take a break and regroup and figure out what our group vision is. And I think just having a pause it's helped me to learn to do that in my personal life. And I think that for this organization, it's going to be invaluable, and we're going to see some really beautiful things come out of this. And we thank you all so much for your support of this. And hopefully that's bought us enough time for the mail.
It did. I'm so sorry, and thank you.
It's okay. Thank you all.
We're a good team. And we love our fur babies. So I'm Tanya Musser, and I found the NHFA in 2016 and was instantly enamored. I learned so much and was so grateful for the content. And as I ventured into death work in 2018, I became a member. And in 2019, I attended the conference that many folks here have referenced. And Leilani and I roomed together. And it was that event where I took a really good hard look at who was or wasn't in the room, what was being shared, what was being offered in the auction and by vendors, what was being said during the keynotes. And I straight up told Leilani at one point, dude, there's a lot of white folks here and there's hella cultural appropriation going on. Oh my goodness. Dog squeaky toy. Paisley, hey. And I wasn't, hold on. I wasn't the only one that expressed similar concerns at that conference and about that conference. And so it was welcome news when we heard that they formed the Equity and Access Committee on the heels of the event. I grew up, went to school, and worked in diverse spaces here in Denver. And when I say that they were diverse spaces, I don't mean to imply that they were equitable or accessible in the ways that they should have been, especially since I was working in human services. So I definitely saw an abundance of disparity. Marginalization was overt. And when I entered the death space and trained as a doula and a celebrant, and in my interactions with the NHFA, I found myself in the widest spaces of my life, which in and of itself gave me pause. I think it's easy to get stuck in the weeds, if you will, of overt isms versus the more seemingly benign, under the surface, insidious stuff that many of us simply haven't had on our radars and didn't even know to look for because they're so embedded in our culture and our language. Many of us on the board have been doing our own work personally and professionally to dismantle systems of oppression, and it's messy and emotional. asking ourselves, how am I implicit in this? What have my shortcomings been? What have I missed? How can I be better? How can we be better? As the board and equity and access committee continued pulling back the layers and unearthing the isms we didn't even know to look for before, it was like, whoa, we have a lot of work to do. And how do we do it as volunteers, no less, while caring for ourselves and feeling the push to go, go, go? It just wasn't sustainable. We can't do it all. We aren't just doing this work with the NHFA, we're doing it in our lives, at our day jobs, in our local collectives, and in our communities. And to keep the NHFA alive and well, we had to pause. And frankly, had we not, I think many of us would have abandoned ship. If we're going to be in this for the long haul, we have to pace ourselves. We're pausing on a lot of our front-facing stuff, but we will still be working diligently behind the scenes, chipping away at what we can to be everything we want to be, and so that the diversity among us grows organically and not in tokenizing ways. And because our communities know not only that they are welcome, but that they feel welcome. And I think we're on to you for our Q&A, Sarah.
There we go. So we're on the Q&A now. Thank you. So again, I just want to express our gratitude to those of you who've chosen to engage in this process, for being curious and for submitting questions. The bulk of the questions received fell into one of 5 broader categories, 5 broader sort of questions, including why now? Are we condemning the founders? What's next? What is your vision for the organization going forward? And what resources and education will be available in the interim and going forward? So the board fairly well addressed the why now in their sharings with us. And they'll answer the 4 remaining questions as well as some others. And like Angela mentioned earlier, we're not planning on answering questions here that might come up in the chat this evening. And I'm wondering, Tanya, would you please speak to this a little bit more?
Yeah, thanks. So if any of you have additional or ongoing questions, you can use the existing question form that we created to submit those. It helps us to keep everything all in one place. And we would like to normalize, in the spirit of pausing, slowing down, and being intentional, that there's no need for urgency here. It's important that we give ourselves this opportunity to take questions in, have time to really reflect on them, discuss our thoughts on them as a board, and work together to come up with answers. And the chat box, in the chat box, Liz dropped the link to Timo Kuhn's work on the characteristics of white supremacy culture. And we'll try to get that out in an email follow-up at some point too. Things like perfectionism and sense of urgency, and how those are damaging because they're used as norms that are harmful to both people of the global majority and white people. So we're not going to be under that pressure to urgently respond to any new questions.
Thank you, Tanya. Angela, can you speak to the next big question of the evening, which is, are we condemning NHFA's founders?
Yes, that's an important question. To be very clear, we are not condemning the organization's founders or their work. We are really trying to honor the founders of the organization by doing the same thing that they did, giving a gift to the future board members of this organization. We have been given that gift of this organization for the past 10 years, and we are giving another gift to the future. We also understand that we are using very strong language to describe and acknowledge the othering and harm that our organization has unintentionally caused. Some may feel that this means we are calling the founders of our organization racist or classist or ableist or transphobic. We are not apologizing for our organizations, for other people's thoughts or actions, or condemning other people's harm. We are apologizing for our harm, the harm that we as an organization have caused to members and would-be members of our community. As Tanya mentioned in Timokon's essay, you'll see that there's some reasons for using strong languages, and I'd like to quote them. One of the purposes of listing characteristics of white supremacy culture is to point out how organizations which unconsciously use these characteristics as their norms and standards make it difficult, if not impossible, to open the door to other cultural norms and standards. As a result, many of our organizations, while saying we want to be multicultural, really only allow other people and cultures to come in if they adapt or conform to already existing cultural norms. Being able to identify and name the cultural norms and standards you want is a first step to making room for a truly equitable organization. So, as an individual, you may have tried interrogating your privileges, whatever they may be. If you have, you may have learned, become aware of, owned, or accepted the ways that your privilege has impacted others' lives. And I don't necessarily mean that you as an individual have directly caused harm to those who don't share your privilege, although chances are you have and aren't aware of it. But you may have learned that through the benefit of your privilege, someone else was excluded or harmed as a result. You didn't exclude or harm someone intentionally, but they were excluded all the same. And maybe now you want to help improve the system that excludes or harms others. That is what the NHFA would like to do. But once you personally learn about the harms that you have been a part of, the first step to take after learning about these harms is not to jump in and start improving straight away. The first step is to apologize or acknowledge or own your part in these harms, however unintentional they were. And that is the first step that the NHFA took. Our pause announcement was not saying they were racist and we are not. Instead, our announcement was saying, we acknowledge our part in perpetuating and benefiting from racism. And we are going to do our best to improve our system so more people feel included and welcomed. It is a message from us, all of us, this organization, to those who have been excluded or harmed by our words or actions. It's good, important work that we are excited to undertake. It's also tough, challenging work that requires vulnerability and trust. It's intimate, it's emotional, it's messy, it's profound, just like caring for your own dead. So if any organization is equipped to do this work together, like a family, like a community, it's ours.
Thank you so much, Angela. And now we're moving on to the question of what's next. And I believe that Isabel is going to address that.
Hey, everybody. I'm a brand new board member. My name is Isabel, and I am based in West Philly. And so just to give some context of, the word pause and what that means more specifically, what it means is that right now we're going to be going on a hiatus of an indeterminate length. So we haven't decided how long our pause is going to be for. It just simply means that all of the ongoing activities that a lot of the other board members mentioned before, such as the virtual meetups, putting out the newsletter, conference planning, any of that is just going to be put on hold for the time being so that we can focus on this deep work that a lot of people have been mentioning of revisiting our materials and practices so that when we restart after our pause, we can feel confident that we have really done the work right. So we're not 100% sure what specifically that's going to look like. But when we are done with the pause, the one thing we can be sure of is that all of us as a board are dedicated to making it more inclusive and accessible and welcoming to all of our members.
Thank you, Isabel. And what is your vision for the organization going forward?
Yeah, so like people mentioned, a lot of the resources and the directory and a lot of those things that we offer are still going to be available. Basically, what we're planning on doing instead of the conference in October is I actually have a background in human-centered design, so I'm going to be leading a visioning session for the board, and we're going to use that opportunity to ground us in what our values are, and then come up with some strategic goals that we're going to try to work towards during this pause. So this is just going to include coming up with some activities to work on and prioritizing them. And we hope to share as much of that with you all as possible and be transparent about it. And I can't say what specifically will come out of the process because that's something that we're going to be co-creating together. But I can say that I'm definitely excited that we're going to be going through this process as a group, and honored to be able to sort of contribute to that as best as I can. And I am happy to answer any questions if anyone has any of them afterwards about that. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing.
Great, thank you. It sounds exciting. What resources and education will be available in the interim and going forward? Lashana?
Yeah, thank you. So all of the current educational material, it's still out there. We're not gonna take web and YouTube videos off the web or anything like that, but we are going to start revisiting everything one by one and editing it. Really working to make sure that language is accessible to folks, that these documents can be translated easy, that we like completely kick a binary to the curb, that people understand that like these are their documents. You can change them and mold them, that there's no one way to care for someone, and really working to just call in community in the revitalization of some of the educational tools. We have so many members that I know that there's more body washing videos out there than we have up on an NHFA. So like, I think that our educational materials hopefully start to include more of our membership and the knowledge that is rooted in here. Some of that will go on in the community calls, like Tanya said. But that happens like together in community, and it's not like a webinar that we are hosting for someone. So that learning will happen in community. There'll be learning opportunities in our newsletter still. We will be connecting you all with all of the things that the board is learning from. And I'm sure that there are board members who are going to want to talk about their process through this. Actually, I know there are, and I look forward to that space being held for folks. Teach people, white people need a place to go and talk and feel safe. And talk about all of this stuff together. And I think that there are board members who are open to having that conversation with people. So that's part of the education that will happen. And the biggest part of the change is all of those books. We looked at all of those books, and there's way too much editing to be done. So we just have to start creating some new material that speaks to people. And so that's going to happen as we pause, but it can't happen in a way that is not harmful and a way that is helpful until the board does a lot of work. Or else we're going to be perpetuating some of the same harms. Does that answer the education question? Kind of, and leaves more questions. I haven't said it so much, but those questions that people ask and submit, we are going to answer. Like, so don't think that it's going into some form and nobody's going to respond. We just are really taking our time and thoughtfully replying to folks. And we're going to give answers to all of the questions submitted out to everybody who attended the webinar in like a PDF. So if you miss something, the written answer will be there.
Also, our website is, obviously going to continue to be up, and all the resources on that are continue to be available. So that's going to that continues to be the resource that it is now. So we had some additional questions that came in, and let's see, how can members be involved and stay engaged?
I'll answer that one.
All right.
So we, I had mentioned, that we're not going to be still putting out the same monthly stuff, the one monthly webinar, monthly newsletter. Conference is postponed, but we are going to, as we regroup and figure stuff out, we do want to keep folks updated on what we're doing. So we will send out some emails. We'll send out some newsletters. It's just like we can't answer when. I can't tell you right now what date that's coming out because we haven't started our process yet. But we're going to try to keep folks up to date as much as possible. Sharing via newsletter, our social media. Please, make sure you're in the NHFA group. And then also we're going to keep going with the monthly meetups that are the last Monday. It's Monday, yeah, Monday of the month. The next one is August 30th. So we rotate new member and community, but it's chats and new member chats, but people are just coming to all of them, whatever. I love them. And the last one only had 2 people. So, and it was great though. We just talked story, right? So just join, hang out with us, talk. It's a good way to also reconnect with other members that aren't us. We're just there to facilitate. But yeah, we're going to try to keep you updated. And also you can just stay involved with each other, contacting each other through, our directory, we're going to try to keep you updated as much as possible.
Thank you.
Can I hop in real quick and just say
Sure.
a quick apology for the last monthly meetup? That was, we've had some technical difficulties. We have ironed those out. So I'm apologizing to anyone that was trying to get in and could not. So we've ironed out those sprinkles, and thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Here's a good question. Oh boy. Is the NHFA also looking at the term home funeral and its limitations? This has long been a concern for me. I advocate for a change that represents home, community, family, death care. Want to take that one too, Leilani?
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
right. So we have been looking through our materials and the language that we use around home funerals and trying to actually use the language more of community directed or community led death care. This change recognizes that not everyone has access to a home that can accommodate their death. A vigil, or also people in general. Also, another word that we look at is the use of the word family is limiting. A lot of times when we talk about home funerals, we talk about family-led death care, families taking their loved ones home. And especially for someone like me who has spent the last 14 years working with in the harm reduction community, working with people who use drugs, working with people who are houseless, that's not reality for everybody. That's not reality for all people. And so some of us don't have loved ones. Some of us don't have family. And so really just looking at the words we use to be more inclusive of folks. So.
Thank you. Another question, does the lack of gender diversity on the board give you pause? Liz, can you address that for us?
I will take this one. Yes, it does give us pause. Again, we want this organization to represent everyone and don't want to give the impression that this is women's work, because it isn't. It's human work. We need to do better at reaching out and partnering in communities that the NHFA hasn't done work in before. And we need to make sure that we aren't welcoming people into a harmful environment. And the NHFA and the members and all of our members, the board and our members need to be educated. We look forward to being a place that all kinds of human people feel comfy and want to be on board. Thank you.
Thank you. And here's one for me asking, will the Path Home podcast continue? And the answer is yes, absolutely. Please reach out to me. You can reach me at the podcast address. It's just podcast@homefuneralalliance.org. if you have a story that you would be willing to share. I'm currently scheduling recordings for season 3, which I hope to launch in late September or early October. And I really like talking with people who have done this on their own. And sometimes they have been joined in the conversation by their home funeral guide or someone, you know, who helped them, who assisted with them. So I'm not opposed to talking to, you know, home funeral professionals. I just like to have that voice of the person who did the home funeral. So something to think about, or a green burial. One of my scheduled conversations is with a family that had a green burial for the mother of the family, and she had identified that this was the sort of burial that she wanted. So yeah, a path home will continue. And please remember to rate and review if you're listening to the podcast. It really helps. Okay. Question. I'm wondering whether you've considered instituting sociocracy as a way of organizing and making decisions. This quote is from the Sociocracy for All, SOFA, SOFA homepage. We believe the best decisions are made when everyone's voice is heard, and that's why we use sociocracy to save time, make inclusive decisions, and create more human organizations. Angela?
Yeah, so I was not previously familiar with the idea of sociocracy and had not heard of Sociocracy for All, or SOFA, and that's a great acronym. But we are grateful for that suggestion, and we plan to explore many paths, many options for our path forward, including that one. So thank you for the suggestion.
Okay, here's another one. How can we strive to use non-political language, positions, and associations?
That's also a really great question. And the board kind of wrestled with the intent of that question, but we'll say that many of our members and current board members see and experience inequality in end-of-life care and death care. This is true throughout the lifespan for healthcare. So this leads us to feel that the politics of our organization should be based on and aligned with our vision and mission. We are not a political organization beyond those things that directly impact our vision and mission, but as long as inequalities exist in end-of-life spheres, the NHFA's vision and mission that community-led death care is for everyone will guide our opinions and actions.
Nice, thank you. Where can we get ongoing advice on home funerals?
Well, you can access the existing resources that we have on the website. We have the member directory. You can reach out to any folks listed on that, and you can reach out to us, board members. We have our emails out there. We have our info out there. You can ask questions on the community Facebook group. Contact us through that. And also if you join that, because we have the Facebook page and then we have the group. So if you join the group, you can reach out to a lot of members. And we're not going anywhere. We're still here to, support all of you and all of our members. We just aren't producing any new educational material content while we correct our current materials. We are our biggest resource. All of us are a resource. So just reach out to the community at large. There's 43 people on this webinar. Someone's going to have your answer if you reach out to our community.
Right, and there's how many on that member page? Like over 400, right? Something like that.
So, I think so.
Yeah. Okay, will certification still be offered for home funeral guides?
I think whoever asked this question, when they signed up, I think what they probably meant was the proficiency badge that we offer. We have the proficiency badge exam, but we do not offer certification for home funeral guides. Yes, the proficiency badge exam will still be available. Anybody can take that. It'll still be accessible. Though there are some ongoing conversations about the implications of the proficiency tests in general, how that fits into our mission. So at this time, yes, that is available. But to go back to certification, there is no certification to be a home funeral guide. We do not offer that. And if someone is telling you they offer that, they are lying. There is no certification for it. And I hear that a lot. And I just want to clarify that because it's something someone says a lot to us, like, oh, I am a certified home funeral guide. I took a certification class. You learned how to be a home funeral guide. Nobody certified you. And if someone's offering you certification, you should say something to them because that is not real. You don't need a certification to learn, know, or how to practice community care. And if you're not doing community care and are charging for your care, just be careful because in some states it's absolutely not legal to charge for some of those services, regardless of certification, because the certification isn't a thing. So just please be careful. It's something that comes up all the time when I'm talking to folks. None of us are certified home funeral guides. You are not, I am not, no one on this call is. Thank you.
I think part of the confusion happens when, some of these folks, in our company who provide training to home funeral guides, will give them a certificate, but it's like a certificate of participation. It's not an actual, official certification. So that's just important to know.
Yeah, it's something that says you took a training, and that's
exactly.
So, yeah.
Okay, another question. What education do leaders need to create this inclusivity that you are seeking?
Another great question. There are a number of educators who are doing specifically anti-racist work and work with marginalized groups in this space. And we would love to educate others, all of our members, on the work that we are doing during this pause to move our own organization forward. We hope to be able to share lists of resources where you can find education on this in the future. So please stay tuned for that. Thank you.
Thank you. And will you expand to Canada?
I liked that question, but whoever asked it shows that maybe people don't understand we are everywhere. We are not just a United States-based organization. That sounded creepy, I'm sorry. We're not just based in the US. Right now, all of our board members are, but we've had board members in the past in other countries. Makes me think Claire Turnham, who was in England and I think is in New Zealand now. It was hard to plan phone calls, but we are all over. So anybody from any country, anywhere can join the NHFA. It just so happens a lot of the most vocal folks, the most visible folks are in the United States, but anybody can be a member.
Yeah, yep. We have many members across Canada, and Claire didn't ever serve on the board, but she has served on some committees of the board. And
we were on education committee together.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got our member, Rebecca Lyons, in Tasmania. So good to see you.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of difficult things to organize, I thank you for being here on whatever day it is.
Right. Whatever day it is there. All right, that brings us to the end of the questions that were submitted. So
yeah, I am so grateful, first of all, to Sarah for being able to facilitate this conversation as a friendly face and voice and heart for everyone who has joined us today. After we announced the pause, I just want you guys to know we got so much great and grateful feedback, words of encouragement, support, votes of confidence, including from some of our past board members. And we are so grateful for that support. And we are also grateful for the financial support that even just this donation-based webinar, you guys were so generous. And I really am grateful for that as well. We plan to send out a summary of what we have shared and discussed in the days or weeks to come. Again, We're trying hard not to put deadlines on things and be able to do this work in a fulfilling way. But as we mentioned earlier, you can continue to submit questions via the form, and we will decide as board how we will answer them going forward. So it may be in a group post, a newsletter, another webinar, social media, regardless. We want you personally, and all of you and everyone to be involved in this progress and involved and engaged. Our intention is to take you, our members, on this journey with us. We don't intend to drag you kicking and screaming. We intend to bring you along for this. We also greatly appreciate those donations that you can give in the future. One of the scariest parts of our decision to hit pause was knowing that some of our more consistent revenue streams, especially that conference, would be paused too. So your financial support will help both in the interim and as we work to fund the projects that we hope to take on with new materials, amazing educational resources, accessibility features like closed captioning, and so forth. So thank you again to Sarah. We are going to close with Tanya's poem that was part of our pause announcement. And we invite you to use this as another opportunity to turn inward, breathe, and ground.
Thanks. Thanks all. Seeds come from those that came before them. Blanketed by seed coats, they can tell when they're in the right place to grow. They lie dormant until they find themselves planted in a hospitable environment. There, they germinate. We are germinating. The first thing to grow from a seed is its roots. We are rooting. Once roots are established, the seed puts out a shoot that reaches for the light. We are reaching. Please support us by understanding how critical it is that we shed the bits that no longer serve us or our communities. In time, we too will go to seed. May the seeds we offer to those who will sow them feed their communities fruitfully.
Again, thank you so much for all of your presence, your openness, your vulnerability, and for being on this journey with us. We are humbled by your kind and supportive words, and we look forward to digging into this work together and sharing, inviting, and including all of you in this process with us. We've all heard the adage of many hands make light the work. This is often literally true in death care, but it is also true of our entire organization. From its origin, this organization has benefited from sharing the work, sharing the burden, and it's this group work that has helped the organization persist for over 10 years. If we want to persist and grow as an organization into the future, our workforce must grow too. May we all be seen, all be heard, all be valued in the work of NHFA. This is our charge as an organization. Thank you for being here. That's the show, folks.
I think we can also say that we'll have further opportunities to talk in small groups in our monthly community meetups. There'll be some time, you'll get some emails with some information. You can percolate on that information and bring some of that information and questions and feelings and thoughts to that community meeting, where those conversations will happen in small groups.
Yeah.
And the link to the question form, I believe, is on the member page of the on Facebook. And it was also included in the email that you all sent out, right? So that if people have questions that they want to submit for the board to consider and answer, they can use that same form.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If you're not on Facebook, where do you find the form? That's, I guess, what I'm wondering.
So it would have arrived as part of the newsletter mailing that they got through
Okay.
MailChimp. And hopefully we're going to be, and by we, I mean me, updating the website with accurate information about who's on the board and other things. Weebly is hard. So as soon as I can do some of that, there's also going to be links to this information and invitations. Sorry,
Great.
Lashana,
Yeah,
go
that's
for it.
great.
The same way that people registered, if you registered with an email address, we will send you links to all of the information. We will send you a link to the replay, a link to the question form, all of the PDFs. You will get all of the documentations via the way you registered for this course. Webinar, class, meeting, thing.
This thing.
Great, thank you.
Yes. Have a wonderful rest of your day, evening, whatever it may be. Much love to you all.
Thank you all. I'm going to hop off.
Are we going to stay on for a minute, Angela?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I'm just poking through a few of these little comments. So.
Lots of nice comments, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I just put people in the waiting room.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, I was wondering if I should start kicking people out.
I know. I was sitting. I was like, who's the lady that was? Just
Well, I guess she was trying to type something to us.
Kelsey?
No, Ellen Huffschmidt. So sure, I didn't get mailings, nor did I get an invite to this meeting. Please get me plugged in, Ellen Huffschmidt. Maybe
Yeah,
you should check
and
to see if her emails are on.
They just might not be, yeah. They just might not be in the LGL subscribed a certain way, but we can.
What's MHF?
Well, and
Or was she on the wrong webinar? Because
no, I think they meant NHFA.
Or did she?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on, because she's Minnesotan. She might have meant MTN.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, so maybe she's on a member of that, not us, or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Chelsea.
Hi.
You just missed it.
No, I've been
No,
in
she
here.
was here. She was here.
Oh, I thought I
Yeah.
just admitted you.
No, that was
No. I
me.
mean, it kept kicking me in and out at the very end, but I've been here.
Shoot,
would-
I'm so sorry. We should have
At the very
spotlighted you.
end, at the
No,
very
it's
end,
okay.
I took all of the people who are up on the top row and put them in the waiting room.
Ah, gotcha. Sorry, we should have made you a co-host so you could have been a visual part of the board. I apologize for that.
It's okay. It's totally fine. It's okay.
Okay.
Everybody probably wants to get off at ASAP, so I'm guessing
I'm
because
gonna
for me it's
stop.
early, but it ain't for y'all. So if you want to just
Yeah,
say how you're feeling,
It's 8 here. So I don't know if anyone has one specific thing that they would like to breathe